We are live. Good evening. This is a meeting of the Council Rock School District Facilities Committee. My name is Mike Thornton. I'm the chair. We'll go around the room quick and then we'll get started.
Doug Taylor, Director of Operations.
Joe Adapa, School Board.
Mary Ann McKee, School Board.
Chuck Lambert, Director of Special Services.
Matt Patterson, Director of IT.
Denise Brooks, School Board.
Thank you. Doug, take it away.
Okay. So we have on the agenda, but.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Oh, sorry.
Andy. We forgot about Andy. Andy Black. I'm sorry, Andy.
Out of sight, out of mind.
That really what
Oh,
happened.
wait,
Sorry, Andy.
wait, one more.
And here
And-
comes Ed Tate. All right, get started.
All right. We good?
Yep.
Okay. So there's, on the agenda, we'll go through these relatively quick. Energy management, we are at 87 cents a square foot, so we've gone from 90 to 89, 88 to 87 is our all new low time cost. It's very good. It is weather adjusted and we're 4 points above our baseline energy score. We're at 82.
You mean it's not affected by positive weather trends?
Right.
That's great. Congratulations.
Yeah, we're doing well. So that's basically what I just moved. Security update. The only thing I have on security tonight is that we're scheduling the train-the-trainer session for Alice. We have to pick 2 consecutive 8-hour days for 50 select staff members. That'll include representatives from each of the police departments. I think 3 representatives from each of the high schools and 2 from each of the other schools. By the time we've taken into account all the local police and our staff, we're basically at our 50. There's not going to be room for any other outside groups as we thought we might have room for. So,
Out of curiosity with that, I just wondered if, do you think we're stacked up?
we're definitely. I mean, we looked at who would be involved. Basically, who would be on.
No, I was just thinking if there was any capacity to, if you go beyond the 50, is there any discount? I mean, the trainer's already here. Could you add at their expense 25 years long? I'm looking at things like St. Andrews, the other programs that have children programs in the community. You already got the police interface done on our time.
I sell training for our company and we limit it because it becomes ineffective once you get a certain number. So that's why they're saying 50. So I mean, at some point.
That's their number. I mean, I did ask if we could exceed.
I agree. I help run a school district, but I had to have a class size to a certain number, you have to go to 1 million. But I noticed the nature of my query, which was the same training that we're doing for ours, the interface of the police department's already covered. You know, that's the nature of the question.
I can ask the question and see what they say.
I have not been approached by anybody, but I'm looking at it from the community aspect of there are many children in the community who may not be going to our schools, but
I hope you don't have no intention of paying for it.
no, I really don't want to. But you realize too that the children who go to those schools don't charge, the school district doesn't get charged for those children who go to the private schools in our area who are from here. And it's interface perspective. That's all I was trying to figure out. Yes.
So we're working on that. That's where we are at this point. Following that will be virtual training and staff training once we have trainers to train staff. Facilities improvement updates. We are in good shape on at Newtown Middle School. We, as of tomorrow, plan to have basically everything in the building wrapped up. There could be a couple loose ends where they're finishing up some bleacher sections or finishing up the chairs in the auditorium. But for the most part, they are complete. They're working on final cleaning in the building. We're going to occupy the admin area once school is up, just to get Tim's staff in that piece of the building so they can work out the new section. And then we will move into demolishing the existing building. The plan, as we talked about before, is to get a new parking lot constructed where the existing building is this year, even though it's scheduled for next year. They'd like to get that in, get the temporary lot out, start to get some field restoration in and progress sooner.
So
And it
it'll be
helps
right
them.
next year.
It's cheaper for them to put paving in this year than next year, so anything they can do to expedite helps us all. So we're gonna see if we can do that. Out middle school, most of those first phases are complete. We're soon moving into the tight part of the schedule, the last section where we're gonna take kids out of the library, out of the cafeteria, out of the gym, locker rooms, and then renovate those last pieces. So we still have some renovation to do in that building. We have to wrap up the auditorium and some other areas by the end of July as well. So there's a good bit of work to do and a lot of substantial amount of site work that built.
Which should start now.
We are, so understand, logistically, we're very challenged. We've got sea boxes outside that we put a lot of things into that were in the gym and the locker room so they can work on that. Now the sea boxes have to go away so they can do the site work. So we have to take that back inside and kind of fill it along the edges of hallways.
I was thinking the opposite side of the building.
We're just looking for places. So now we're kind of doing a little bit of a game of moving things around, trying to find space. But we're gonna be okay. We have a plan. So we're in good shape. We're beginning to pack library books and do all those other things in some of the schools that have to move. The carts have been delivered, trailers are being delivered, things are happening. So one of the items for the agenda for the board for Newtown Middle School, we hired Revolution Recovery, who are doing our construction waste management as part of the LEED process. All the waste is being recycled. I think we're at 95% of all of the waste from the project has been recycled. The other 5% couldn't be. Some of that was some of the foam insulation, debris, and things like that. You just can't do much with. We have a budget of 150. At the time we awarded it, we awarded $80,000 as an allowance to get us through. We want to amend that and increase it by $15,000 to finish the job. So we'll be about $95,000, still well below the 150. Our interim HVAC contractor and the Hartford takeover, we talked a while back about change order to JR Reynolds, our current plumbing contractor, to help us with critical path items. It was not to exceed $80,000. The actual cost was $60,443. Additive to Reynolds, we're preparing change order MC003 to deduct the $6443 from Hartford Financial Services, which is a net change to us of zero. We're in the process of managing that. I have it on the agenda as just a information ratifying kind of thing only. There's not really an approval necessary, but just to get it in the books. One of the other items that is on the board agenda are cafeteria tables. We realized after taking tables from Richboro and giving them to Holland and Newtown, and what's staying in Newtown, the one thing we didn't order out of all the furniture was enough cafeteria tables for Holland Middle School. So we need to order 20 tables. We would get those from the CoStar vendor Pemco, who's provided all the other furniture. It's $33,875, and we need those for the start of the school year. So we're just adding them to the
That's how much
furniture.
tables cost?
What's that?
That's how much a table costs?
Yeah, the folding table, the building seats there.
$1,100.
I don't know.
$1,200.
$1,100 for seats. When they're full, they probably seats 12 kids.
Oh, I thought it was smaller than that.
But it has the seats integrated.
It's got the little plastic, they're round.
My only query about that is there will be a number of those that will be,
ADA.
where I was coming from. The second thing was, we've already shipped them, I imagine. Is it the aesthetics of matching?
Yeah, when we were ordering tables over the last 2 years for the different schools,
They're all matching.
everything was planned to match. So these are not shipped, these I have to,
No, I got that, but you moved the other ones over
Yeah.
from that existing.
yes. Wrightstown Elementary School, we are on track. We have, we're waiting for the actual building permit from Wrightstown Township. I'm told that in a day or two we'll have the permit. I was told we're waiting for the cost of the permit, but they said that the cost of the permit will not be anything like we're used to seeing. for building permit costs. They're willing to get the permit out without waiting for a check. It's going to keep us moving. So I'm waiting to see what the cost is and where the permit is.
Let's be clear, so you're being led to believe that the cost of the permit will be much less than,
That's what I'm told, yes, from a reliable source.
much less than what we used to see.
Yes.
What we used to see.
So we're going to start actual site work June 25th when the kids are gone. They don't really want to do much of anything with the kids still there, so let's just get the kids out. Then we'll dive into the site, and come July 1st, they'll get into the building and do their thing. So they're ready to go. They're working on submittal. Structural steel drawings are in the works, which is a critical submittal, obviously. We need rebar for footings, we need the steel for the building, HVAC system, lighting. There's a lot of things we have to get ordered with. Planning Part G is project accounting based on bids. This is the board item agenda for the 21st. It basically confirms the cost and confirms that we're within our Act 34 limits. The general contractor, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fill out a GO8 form that shows you what the site costs are, what the building costs are, what's new and what's existing, to make sure that we're on track with what we projected at the hearing. So that's all being prepared. Rolling Hills Elementary School. Updated this schedule. This is basically the overall project schedule on where we are, so I don't have to go over all of this other than you know that we're working to get the kids into Richborough Middle School when the Wrightstown Elementary School kids move out in 2019. So this will start in 19 and finish the summer of 2020. Again, a one-year project similar to Wrightstown. This slide, though, are some key dates, and again, you guys will have this PowerPoint. The good dates to see: review plan con parts A and B tonight. Board approves part A and B at the next board meeting. Northampton Township sketch plan review with the planning commission is July 10th, so that's a key date. Northampton sketch plan review planning commission meeting said board of supervisors is later in July. And then it just continues. Board approves the Act 34 resolution in September, ultimately the hearing happens in October, and so on. So over the next 6 to 8 months, we're going to continue to plug along with all the approvals for Rolling Hills in hopes that by the end of January, we're ready to go. And
It could be enough time.
it does. It's tight, but I mean, it always is. We're hoping for cooperation, and I suspect I'm pretty excited about this project after where we started initially. So,
Is there anything in the July 10th or that's contingent upon the 21st? We're meeting on June 14th, so a special meeting, but meeting advertised as any other businesses in the class.
yeah, there's not.
So there's no reason.
Yep. Thank you.
I'm just looking at the calendar. The Board of Supervisors usually meets on a Wednesday, and the 26th is a Thursday.
Okay, Supervisor.
It could be, maybe they changed it, but they usually meet on a Wednesday, so.
I can take a look. I know the 10th is absolutely right. We all had the 26th on the schedule. I can see if that's misposted. Thank you. I'll look at that. So, design phase update, the ACE grant paperwork is submitted. The good news is they're asking questions, detailed questions, a lot of questions electrically, questions about energy and things like that. So the fact that they're asking questions tells me that they have money left and maybe considering it. So keep your fingers crossed. We'll know in July where they stand with it. The schematic plans, site plan was submitted for the sketch review to Northampton in May for the July meeting. And we studied and developed the location for the photovoltaic array, the solar panels. If the ACE grant is awarded, about 22% of the power of that building will be from solar panels on the site. And I'll show you where they want to live shortly. This is basically the plan that we've talked about. This is the site plan that's been developed. We were looking at solar panels on the ground. You have trees down here, you have the sun angles. You have to be cautious about how far away you keep the panels from the trees. It started to really bunch things up here. We would have lost 2 fields. We were able to find on the roof area a location to put the panels on the what I would consider sort of the back side of the building. We have these, I would call them rectilinear skylights. This is a shed roof kind of thing, a single slope. It has windows in the one side to get light into the hallway. The whole roof of that would be panels as well, at an angle, so the sun gets it. So it'll serve as the light monitor and also the solar panels on the roof. And we have another one of those across here, but there'll be no solar panels on that. So the good news is we don't affect the play areas for the kids.
And you're not covering the entire roof.
No, 22% of the power comes from that amount of the solar panels.
Those solar panels are really new. Not it's all new roof, but that was
the canopy.
That's right. So is that canopy?
Structurally,
Yeah.
it's fine. Yeah. Yeah, we looked at that. That's pretty perceptive, Jerry. PlanCon Part A, NB for Rolling Hills. A is a description of the project, basically. And Part B is a technical review of the drawings with PDE, which isn't really happening right now. There's a moratorium. I understand Jim Vogel, who was the PDE PlanCon guru, who left, has been rehired, and they're revamping the system. So I think that it won't be long. We'll see PlanCon in some new form. I know Reef from Dewey was part of a hearing of 12 people to help rewrite the PlanCon process. He was invited to be a part of it, so we believe there'll be something coming soon.
Does that have to get refunded through the state budget annual?
Imagine.
Yeah.
But all of those forms are like 1970 something forms, are very wide forms, so it was well past its time to revamp the system.
I know, because at least 2 of our 4 members haven't been through the planning process. So it's really repayment. It's really a small portion, for like 5% of the building cost. Yeah, exactly, of the building cost, and it comes back to the over 20 years,
Some don't like what the bond.
which for us is 20 years.
So it's just small payments. If they gave everybody the money back at 5%, they wouldn't have the money.
But it's a $20 million project, so 5% for lucky is $1 million. So it works out to be $100,000 a year.
And if it stays the way it was, the lead goal gets us a couple more. It's a little bit more money.
So it's
A little bit, whatever you can get.
Just because you
And if we get the 2 million
problem
grants.
was the state was paying back the money, the state is not making payment on that. For the things they owe already, they put that in hiatus. So we're assuming that money is still coming to us for what has been up. So we've been processing planning stuff all along. Because we got, I think the last one, Wrightstown, we started Wrightstown. Well, we started Wrightstown after the plan.
Yeah, it was already in more,
Yeah.
but we've submitted everything as if the process was still in place. In the event that it's lifted, which we think it will, we're hoping that by submitting, we'll be recognized and hopefully be in line and get some money. And we're doing the same thing with Rolling Hills, so they said, we'll take A and B, but anything after that, they basically send back.
So we're doing
Send it, but we're gonna send it back. And we say, well, I'm gonna send it.
So if this is 18, if this is 20, and Wrightstown count, is Wrightstown?
We hope so.
5%.
It's
So
definitely,
that's 20, Goodnow, Churchville, Holland. So you're up to 5, so you're up to when they start paying again, it's $500,000 a year. Oh, it's just rough numbers.
Yeah.
Give you an idea what PlanCon means to us.
if the percentages stay the way, I don't know what the formula is. It was a very antiquated system. I mean, PlanCon, you didn't try to understand it, you just did what you told you to do. It didn't make any sense. Facilities improvement updates, moving. We've been working with the moving contractors on a master schedule, and one of the things that we've done here, we have 4 different moving companies moving the 4 buildings. Since then, Matt put the IT equipment out for bid as well, and one of our bidders, Samani, was awarded the IT moves. I mean, it wasn't a substantial number, I think, 9,000, 8,000. But we've incorporated that into this so that the movers understood when the move by date was. So this isn't necessarily when they'll move them, but they know it writes down by Friday the 22nd, we really need to get the IT stuff out on Saturday the 23rd, our moving guy's coming in, packing the truck, delivering it to Richboro Middle School. Then he's coming back on the 27th and 28th to distribute all this stuff throughout the school at Richboro Middle School. That allows our contractor at Richboro Middle School to pack and move the 25th and 26th. So by the 27th, it's empty and ready for the other guys to come in and move all their stuff around. Holland Middle School, the packing and moving on Friday, and there's some internal moves at Holland Middle School as well. Even though we're staying in the building, people that are in the building are moving all over the place. So teachers' belongings will be packed and then moved throughout the building. So they'll come back and do the internal moves on Monday. At Newtown Middle School, they're doing the lower level first, the gym and the lockers. Then we have to get some IT stuff out of there as well. And then they're going to come back and move the rest of the building later that week. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of coordination. It sounds really simple, just looking at the colored bars, but there's a lot to do. We've already had some trailers delivered to start moving some things into outside. We have library parts moved to most of the libraries, so we can begin packing those. They're a four-sided cart with wheels. We load them just like stacks. They wrap around those, and then they can roll them out and roll them into the next school. And then we unload them and they take the carts away. So there's some efficiencies, but that being said, a lot to do. So Chuck is here tonight for the Achieve Sloan LSAC facility update. I just want to kind of go over where we were a couple months ago when we talked about this. And we noted that the ancillary building discussions were previously put on hold because we have been focusing, and rightly so, on redistricting and where we're going to go with that, which still remains a very active process. So discussions about, I think we kind of know we're sitting around Chancellor, and I think we kind of said Twining Ford would probably say Twining Ford, but there's been no final decisions made. LSAC, Richboro Middle School, Chancellor, Twining Ford, I guess would all be in the basket to talk about. We know Richboro Middle School is being used as a temporary elementary school for Ricetown next year and the year after for Rolling Hills. We also know that the LSAC facility is leased through June of 2020. So the same time Rolling Hills comes out of Richboro Middle School is the same time the LSAC lease is up. And we know that with 6 months notice, we could be asked to relocate from the LSAC facility. Now, do I think that's going to happen? I don't believe, and I know Robert, we've had some discussions.
Yeah, in fact, just yesterday I talked with administration at LSAC. They wouldn't be in a position to sell that facility right now, even if they wanted to. They just recently moved some of their staff across the street into the building that we use. So certainly nothing is imminent, and frankly, nothing is even in the works. So you never say never, and subject to change. But for the time being, things are looking good.
So I guess the only reason, I mean, not the only, but reasons to talk about this aren't necessarily for today in some emergency situation, although if that happened, we just have to talk about it. But what happens in 2 years when that lease is up? What do we want to do? And I'm not suggesting anything other than showing you some of the options. I knew Chuck and I, we met with David Schrader, and we talked about the program, the spaces that Chuck and his folks need for the 3 different programs being run. The Achieve Sloan Twilight program developed a program that has core academics, small library, computer lab, administrative area, nurse, dining, kitchen. Consider expansion for a possible middle school program. The middle school program square footage is not in the program we looked at. We just looked at what's happening now. And Chuck's in about 17,000 square foot building now. And looking at what the ideal spaces would be based on today's standards of space per student and the support spaces that are required, it looks like it's about 25,000 square feet of space that program should be operating in. Ideally, doesn't mean it's not operating where it is now, but ideally it would be about 8,000 more square feet than it is.
Take a moment for that, just because it's great to talk about square footage, but most of us an acre is 40,000 square feet, but that's the acre of open land. How big, in a school, Wrightstown was our smallest.
Going to.
Oh, right. Never, I was just looking at the comparison between Wrightstown, what's for example.
I can kind of show you a plan, that might help anyway.
Well, I'm just trying to compare to something I know now.
I know he's got one.
Okay.
Yeah, I can show you a piece of Richboro. I put it in a piece of Richboro Middle School to show you about how big it is. It is not a suggestion if that's where it goes. It's conceptual, just to show you.
My understanding, as I recall, was Wrightstown was about 66,000 square feet, as it was understood.
No, Wrightstown was about 30,000.
Okay, so we're talking about a size, it's not, that's.
Not much bigger than, not much smaller than Wrightstown.
As it stood.
As it stood.
Yes.
So this isn't easy to see, but basically it was how the program was developed. There's many pages of this that talk about each of the areas and what's required. But when we looked, it was around 24,460 or something. It's about 17,000. We always talk about the grossing factor for the corridors, the bathrooms, the mechanical space, everything you need. When you start to look at that, it shakes out to about 24,000, 25,000 square feet. So for the sake of this exercise, we took the Richboro Middle School. This is the main road out front. This portion of the building is where we show the LSAT program. The other thing that has to be considered when you look at cost in a building like this is the boiler room. Because again, anything new we put in here wants new systems to serve it. So we'd have to come down to the boiler room, do some work, and then get, new system hydronic piping conduits back and forth from that space. So when you look at it, and again, you can't really see the names of the spaces, but to give you a sense of the program's fitting here, it's color coded to see. It's more to show you how it fits in the building than it is to show you a specific program, because it's just conceptual to show that we can make the program work.
And that building is construction such that you can move the walls. It's built a lot like a store would be,
Yeah, I mean, the columns are there. You
Yeah.
can take out the common walls and for the most
So
part.
we could develop it.
You could, could you develop this? Absolutely. Could there be room for expansion in the middle school program?
Sure.
Yeah, does it work there? Absolutely. Is it available next year, the year after? No. But after that, it's a discussion you guys have to have as a team. But again, it's just conceptual. Where it lives is to be determined. I'm not promoting, I'm not.
Would you like to say that one more time? Just to be clear.
No matter how many times I say it, it's still.
I think it says up there, as a matter of fact.
Do you think it was?
And that's what you're pushing?
It does look pretty nice.
I think you ordered the movement.
So this is the building, as if it were a freestanding building, just to show how it looks on its own. The program absolutely, can work in the same size, kind of footprint on its own mechanical room that supports the building. And the reason we show two options is so I can show you the cost of each, today's cost for each of these. So you understand, if you were to use Richboro as a conceptual idea, you take renovations, 190 square foot times 25,000. The boiler room allowance, which I said because it's at the bottom, you get the stuff back and forth. We have boilers, chillers that are from 1960s and have been band-aided and things, they need to be replaced. A site allowance of $1 million, paving, storm, circulation, that parking lot is absolutely shot. So you can't even think about just reusing what's there. Environmental allowance of 100,000, pipe fittings, boilers, things like that. The total construction is about 6.6 million, with some design contingency and soft costs, 2.3 of those. So it's about $9 million. Now, I want to be clear, I do have some exclusions here. I don't know when you go to a township and say, we want to put this program here, but the other piece of the building is still going to be programmed something different with mixed use, what they're going to require. They're going to say, you got to sprinkler the whole building, if you sprinkler, you put this in, will allow us to put firewalls in, just sprinkler this piece.
Basically, you're giving us a swag at this.
It's a, yes.
Just
If we can renovate that piece and go to the boiler room and not have to do everything else in the building and bring it up to ADA because we're doing this piece, I think the number's accurate. They say you gotta go through the rest of the building and bring it up to code. It starts to change things a little bit. Significantly, not necessarily, but I don't know until we meet the township. So, but I think this is a fair renovation cost number.
For just that piece of the building, right?
For just that, for the
Not the
25,000
whole.
square feet, yeah.
Did you come up with that, or did you engineer it? You did?
I came up with it and then I vetted it through. I talked to Dewey and said, what do you think? And they agreed.
Those numbers are usually pretty close.
I mean, like the design part of it, not the numbers. I know you're great with the numbers.
The design part, I worked with Schrader, David Schrader, threw something together, you know.
State that paid for that.
We have I have a professional fee line item in our maintenance budget for small kind of projects like this. So.
No,
No, if it's just assistance with minor planning and stuff, we use the professional fee piece. If it's obviously anything big, then we go out for
That's
RFPs.
what we do.
And honestly, his fees are the lowest in the architectural world. He's very reasonable. He likes us. He's a friend of
That's
ours.
good.
It's in your budget.
And it's in the budget, so.
Yeah, but having said that, does it exceed $15,000 a year?
I don't think so. I mean, this would not be.
I guess, and just from the perspective of, do we see, because that I asked means maybe we do know that. I know we voted on him for certain things in the past and do as well. I just don't remember the allocation.
I know, could I have just taken it to Dewey through the,
Trying to understand where we are.
Yeah. So if you look at this new, because of the size, you really have to put a bigger square foot number to it. It's a small building, there's not a lot of efficiencies, it's a bigger building. So it's about 300,000, $300 a square foot,
I'm sorry, 190 on the other one?
yes. Yeah. Site allowance with new construction would be different. It's bigger because we have to put a boiler room as part of the program. So why is this 26.5? Because that's 1,500 square feet for a boiler room. That's why there's a difference in cost. Site cost is bigger if you're developing a site. And then you have the soft cost. So you're looking at about 12.8 if you were to build this on a site that doesn't include the purchase of land. If we had land to put it on, that's about what it would be. Off-site improvements wouldn't necessarily be included, so if we put it on the road, it's a 10-mile road or something, we'd have to shake that out, to see, but.
Yeah, just a reasonable.
It's a reasonable, no, it's a what would it cost, I mean, not. Now, if we're gonna do this in 3-4 years, then it's 60% more, we have to talk about that. So at some point, when we wanna look at our long-term planning for what we're gonna do with the rest of our schools, so Limestone, Richboro, Hillcrest, and Newtown. And if something like this is in there, we have to take a peek at, when they all happen, and then we can project the actual cost of each one out and finish things up as we have to plan for that. So that's what I have for the LSAC stuff, so you guys have some idea of, we pay $360 roughly, so we're $360 roughly a year for LSAC today. The option, to look for a different lease space, the option to look for something to renovate, and the option to build, they're all options. You can see they range from 360 to 13 million, so.
2020 looms large, and, so getting it on the master, just getting it in the plan, makes sense.
Are you here to speak?
I was here because I was asked. I guess, well, just in case any questions about the program.
I can't answer anything about it.
Yeah, let's take a moment and go through just how many kids at your high water mark during the course of the year? Because we do start the year with lesser number from some of these programs. Achieve, we start with a start. But you want to run through how many children are served?
I would say that we are, on average, 35 at Sloan and 35 at Achieve. I do not believe we would grow Sloan larger unless we added the middle school program, and I'll be honest with you, that's coming up awful frequently lately. The Achieve programs, I could see some growth there. We currently have students that stay with us in 18 to 21-year programming at North, typically in our autistic support program. And our MDS program at South. I could see bringing them over at some time, but that's not necessarily in the works.
So if I take the number, just trying to do rough math, I'm just trying to figure out, it might be a perfect conversation we had on this, I just, again, it's familiarity with programs, right? Historically, when we had children when we had the program internally for the alternative school, we had, oftentimes these students would wind up wind themselves dead. They would be assigned to go to the New Hope Academy, or someplace, or Titusville Academy, or someplace. It was about $38,000 a piece. This is some years ago.
So for the students in the Achieve program, if we were to.
I was speaking of the other
Supplemental school program, so I would say to you that depending on whether the student has an IEP or not, that price could range from 30 to 40,000 easily.
So so if it's 40 and it's at 35, if I say it's 30, that's 1.2 million in money sent out of the district. And that's all, it's fully loaded unless someone needs a one-on-one aid, where you're adding another $60,000 a year between the 40 for the person and benefits. So it's about 1.2.
When I have, like, as an example, we started the Achieve program with one class, with one group, and we're now up to 3 groups. When I've added classes, the analysis I go through with Bob, the cost of all of that stuff that goes into running that building over there now probably comes to about $30,000 per student. If you place the students outside the department, probably minimum of $36,000, probably more per student.
So that's, and I think.
That's Achieve, right?
Well, I could look at them separately. The thing is, the Achieve program is more staff intensive, so you have higher costs there. That's why I look at it as a whole. I look at 70 kids.
That's fine. That's it. And there is some component, I want to be fair about it, which was for the alternative school. It used to run at a much smaller number. We used to have that program at the high water mark. That program in a year was 20. What probably, I can't say probably, what may have been happening at that point was that children who would have been better served to be out of the district at a placement weren't. They were still in high school. And for those people listening along the lines, this alternative program was really designed around children who have behaviors that don't benefit themselves very well. This is not historically children who have behaviors that are endangering or problematic for other students. I've been in New Jersey. We used to have an alternative school in the town where I served, and we weren't allowed in that without police officers. That was a wholly different thing. That was serving an inner city population. Those are kids who, those aren't the kids we're dealing with in this situation. So I think that's useful to know. The second thing was the Twilight program, to take a moment through that. I was with Barry the other night, Robert, so he and I were working through some of these things. A child who was expelled from our school district and is under 17 years of age is still entitled to and it is still required under the state constitution to receive an education at the cost of taxpayers. Our current solution to that for a child who was expelled and not coming to the Twilight program is to provide that child 5 hours of education each week. And so if we send the person to their home, that's at the tutor rate, which is about $30, $35 an hour, depending on where our contract is. And that person gets an hour of transportation time because they have to get there and back. So that's 6 hours of pay for at $35 a piece. It's $210 per student while they're expelled. Gets them 5 hours of education. When they come to a Twilight program, it's called Twilight because we run the program at a time when other students are not in the building. It's not very, correct me if I'm wrong, we're running it when there may be a slight overlap, but we're running in a period, no overlap. We're running in a period when there's nobody in that building except those students. So if you've got 5 kids who are doing that, they're coming every day for that program. And they're getting 5 hours of education each day, and they're getting 25 hours a week for the,
No, they're there for 3 hours per day.
3 hours a day. They're getting 15 hours of education for basically the same price we'd be paying to give any one of them a fine. So my problem, you know, with this addresses from my perspective is, we expel kids on every end of the spectrum. We expel kids who've done something wrong. We've had kids we've expelled who are great scholastically. They did one stupid thing and they required to be expelled. We have kids who've been marginally educational, you know, their educational attainment is marginal, but they are expelled because they did something stupid. To take those kids and only give them 5 hours of education in any 1 week puts them at risk of not being able to come back successfully. So I just want to lay out from my perspective, I'm sorry for long soliloquy, but these are things that I don't know that everyone is familiar with or has dealt with before. That's where these programs have value, and it really marks us a little bit different than some of our neighboring communities because we've brought them in-house. They're an integrated program in terms of the coordination with the teachers in our schools is high. You know, they may only be getting the 15 hours a week for the kids who are in the expulsion category, exclusion category. But the level of integration with the teachers, we talk about PLCs, you know, we talk about teachers working together. The kids who go to these programs, kids who've been in advanced placement programs, who've gone to our Twilight program, there's still a high level of integration. I know where I stand on it. I guess you can probably figure out, but that's why I think the values of the programs that we have. I want to give that background. It's just so, I don't know if everybody knew it. I don't know who's familiar with it, who's not. You smile because your husband worked there. So Mary Ann's husband was a teacher. That's where I first met him, at the over where Chandler Hall is now. It's in a garage where he was running the program.
Yeah, before they had a home base. And I echo what Jerry said. I see the value of these programs. I just have a question for you, Chuck, about, as you've talked to us before about expanding to middle level, and you seem to be implying that you're seeing more and more need for that. Is that correct?
I think we're implying that more and more people are asking for it.
We're in meetings trying to resolve issues with kids in a way that's successful for the entire school community. That comes up often enough as maybe that would be a good solution for some of these situations.
Okay, so I'm very interested in knowing more about that and have some.
One of your academic standards.
Yeah, okay, all right, then I'll pursue that with you. Under facilities then, let me ask, should that occur? Should you establish a Sloan-type alternate school for middle school students? What needs would you foresee in terms of the physical space, since we're talking about facilities? For both populations to be in the same building, I would think that you would have some strictures on where that would occur. In other words, I wouldn't see those populations being integrated with each other.
That would be correct. And I would suspect, and I'm guessing at this point, but I would suspect that the number of students would be smaller than the high school students. The caveat, Sloan, we only do 10th, 11th, 12th grade students. So because, partly for that same reason, because a ninth grader is very different than a.
Exactly.
So that's why we do that. So that would also give some flexibility with ninth grade. I think there could be some economy of scale with staffing, but I would absolutely want to keep them separated. I wouldn't blend them in.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you.
More on Sloan? We're just moving forward as.
That's fine. I just want to give you the context for where it is.
I mean, I could, if you wanted me to be here for a couple hours, I could tell you all kinds of beautiful stories.
Maybe you could speak privately with Jerry.
Yeah.
For a couple
No,
of
I mean, no. I watch the kids when they come into our program. I'm over there all the time. I see those kids when they leave the program, and it's just, it'll bring tears to the eyes sometimes when you see how far these kids come from when they start with us. So.
Look, on the Achieve program, I will tell you that in our own family, you know, the program was available for Nat. Now, I don't know that would be appropriate for Achieve either, because it does based on your individualized education plan. But the programs I saw that we're looking at, they just, I apologize to anybody who listens, but I thought they were more warehousing than education.
When I sit with teams to talk about and this is thanks to you all, that when I sit with teams to talk about, is this a student that we should be placing elsewhere? I can say with great confidence, nobody's doing it better than we do. I don't know, and I mean that. So I think in terms of our kids, there are kids in this community, we're doing the best we can with, and we're doing better than anyone else is doing.
And we've also taken we also have now a much expanded integration with MDIT as well, for 13th year, for children who are still under our care until they're 12.
I mean, there's always exceptions. There's certain kids whose needs are such that, you know, a different program might be the program. But for most of our kids, I think we serve them quite well.
All right, back to facilities.
You're good, Chuck. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you. So summer projects, we have a bunch and we're moving along. The one that started is Chancellor Center, and I say we're probably about 2% based on the chiseling I hear every day outside the wall. So they're working diligently on this building. They're doing their best to maintain circulation and all those other good things. So they are heading away all of the existing mortar that has failed. And this is a sample panel of what we'll get when we're done. It's not clean yet, so some of this stuff will go away, but really good work by a really good contractor. Windows are being stripped like literally they never were here before, down to the wood, getting rid of the lead paint, all of the years of paint that were on this building from the get-go. So this will
not allowed to cap.
we will, no. I mean, if you crown, you know, custom crown molding, aluminum, I'm not big fans of aluminum. Historically.
So after the strip, what are we doing? We're repainting in place.
I'm sorry?
What, the windows, the stripping nicely, but I'm sure you will find some rot or something. What are we doing?
Yeah, so we have a percentage of wood replacement as part of the base bid. So we've identified areas of replacing rotted wood. If they find more than we agree to pricing to replace it if we need to. That's in the bid itself.
That's what I'm saying, so the whole windows sash.
So the windows, so I'm going to talk about the windows in just a couple of minutes.
You get ahead of us.
But one thing they are doing, Jerry, these gutters are being reused, but they're taking them down. They're going to put a piece of aluminum directly behind the gutter where the wood has rotted from the water getting behind it, so you won't see it, but there'll be a piece of aluminum to preserve directly behind the gutter. The gutters will go back, the hangers will go back, everything. They're hot.
And what are you going to do between the metal differences between aluminum and copper?
There'll be separation. They won't have a galvanic reaction. We'll make sure they're separate. Questions? So this wood is being stripped. The windows are planned to be repainted. All of the caulking is planned to come out, and they're re-caulking every piece of glazing in the building. Interestingly, you know, they're working hard in the store. They got it down to like the original red wood paint, which I thought was really cool to kind of see. There's neat things. When we did the floor downstairs, the old gym lines were underneath. Like, it's really cool to see some of the old stuff that's left behind. This has all been stripped. It's just primed. It still needs to be painted. The roofers will come when they do all this, and we'll work the flashings in around here. But really good work. A lot of work. What I wanted to talk about were the windows. And this is just entirely information and for a decision from the group, because I felt as we're doing this to not ask the question would have been, you know, not have been doing my diligence. So I asked what the cost would be if we were to take the upper and lower sashes out of about 51 openings here, all of the large windows, and replace those with a Marvin or a Pella window that meets the Historical Society's requirements. And generally that is, even though it would be insulated glass, not single pane, they put a spacer bar in between the glass wherever the divided lights are. They put the grill on the outside and the inside. It's called simulated divided light. So you have one large piece of insulated glass, but it feels like it's divided light. They take those out, they put jam liners in, they bring upper lower sashes, put them in place, and they're a clad window that's good for many years, and repairable and everything else.
More than 10.
And they, more than 10. And they function.
And they open. Okay.
So I say net cost is 126 because because the cost is actually, the reduced maintenance, it restores operable windows, it increases the thermal value and energy efficiency. Never anything tremendous, because the R value of glass, it goes from 1 to 3. I mean,
And
it's
the R value of these walls is not.
right, so I'm not selling on energy efficiency. Approval by the historical committee would be required. It would push the work back because it have to measure every opening, order the windows, which isn't an issue if you're 12 months regardless. It eliminates the plastic storm windows on the inside. As I said, the net cost is about 126. The cost of paint and restore, about 10 years, they come back and they repaint the windows and everything again. It's probably 100 grand to come back and do it.
Those plastic storm windows are a cleaning problem, aren't they?
Yeah, we collect flies and everything else. It's kind of like a little science experiment.
Yeah.
Since they
Since we renovated the building.
2006 or
Since they, when they redid the building, it was cheaper to do that than any other solution, so that's
Yeah.
what they did.
Sure.
yeah, so
You're not thinking, this is not the large, these are all the
the
square
ones,
windows.
the ones in the boardroom are already replaced. Those are replacement windows. Yeah, so they're insulated glass with divided spacer bars and grid on the inside and outside, but they're fixed.
You sit, Denise, you sit over on that side. when we're-
I'm always freezing, so Jake for me.
Kyle,
That's the wall.
do you feel them being cold? You're also probably always cold.
I've always wondered.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's everybody. I was trying to.
We
figure
are
out-
not
We're not,
together.
no, like, not into that. I was just trying to figure out, I've never had a problem.
You will have less draft. The one thing that will be different between a window like this and an insulated window is there'll be less draft, which freezer comfort is improved because you don't have that window you're down. So it definitely does improve draft. It doesn't, thermal value is.
So you're really talking, $2,600 a year over the course of 10 years. So you're really asking.
I'm not asking, I mean, I'm saying,
Why would you not ask $2,600?
I think if we're gonna stay here, which I feel like we are, it's the right thing to do. I think it's, 10 years from now, when somebody comes along and says, we have to do all these windows, why the heck did you guys replace them when you did your project 10 years ago?
Even if you don't stay here, the value's still protected.
Well, it increases that. And at any rate, the bottom line is it's about 100, we did, it's 126,568. It's 198 to replace them. They have to determine which company the both axle, the installation, the trim work, the disposal, the field measuring, then the credit to not do all the windows, the credit for not painting all the sashes, total credits, and then there's always the overhead and profit, so it's about $126,000. If we're interested,
Do you think there's any chance to work it into any surplus there might be in this year's budget?
I'm starting.
Can you work it into this year's
Can you
budget?
work, you got any surplus in this year's budget?
Yeah, but the money would come from the contingencies that we still have for summer.
You're outside ahead.
So,
Okay, yes.
so you asked a good question. So we have 342,000 remaining in contingency. If we were to take this out, we'd still be carrying about 216,000 for any unforeseens for all the projects we have along the summer. We also have about $230,000 in allowances throughout all the projects that are happening. I don't anticipate any projects that are going to consume that $200,000 that we have in the works. So I think we have the monies in the summer, in the 4.7 that was approved to do this, if there's interest.
Yeah, you heard that, if there's money, ready to build.
So if it is, I would get a change order together. I would schedule a time with the Historical Society to take to them the product and work through that process and just push this piece of the project back until there's.
I'm in favor.
So I'll bring it to the board.
Yes.
You know how I feel about painting things, so
So do you have communication from the Historic Commission, whether they would approve this product or not?
Well, based on what they permitted in the
Right.
boardroom, it would be no different, in fact, I think a little nicer. And the windows that we're proposing, TE Construction used in Philadelphia for historical restoration and Doylestown. So I feel like we're on the right track. So definitely follow up. The next thing I have is Howland Elementary School three-phase service. So I don't really want to get into the whole how it happens. I mean, in your home, you have 120, 240 volt power coming in. in a school like Holland, we actually had 480 volt three-phase coming in. It's 1440 to the building, and then 480 legs that serve the building. In your home, it's 120, 120, you might have panel 1, 3, 5, 7 on one side, 2, 4, 6, 8 on the other. You may have one that's 240 for your dryer or your range, but everything else is 120. In a school like Holland, we have 1440 volts coming to the transformer, and then 480 in 3 different legs that feed all the equipment. So what happens? There should be 3 equally phased legs, 480, 480, and 480. What we have at Holland is 477, 468, 484 coming from the transformer.
Pico says that's good enough.
Pico does, yeah, they're providing 1440 to here, they're good.
Yeah, I don't care.
So we can look at making some adjustments to the capacitors in the transformer to even that out. But the bottom line is this: when we lose a leg, so when the wires come into the school, when Pico has a power outage, we sometimes lose one of those legs. Now the lights might be on in the building, but other things aren't. And motors, so a motor has 3 legs coming into it. When one drops, the motor works really hard to try to make up for that fluctuation in power in the lost leg, and they get hot, and they burn up, and we lose motors. We already lost a 5-year-old motor in the boiler room because we lost a leg more than once in our it's a newly renovated building.
And that area is prone to what you just described.
It's at least 3 times, 4 times since we renovated the building, we've lost a leg. So the reason I'm bringing this to you is because we lose a leg, we have phase loss, it does result in equipment failures, motors, pumps, variable frequency drives, other equipment because of the excessive power they draw to compensate for the leg that's missing. We troubleshoot it and we check each leg to find what the readings of those legs were to see what's happening. Realize that we don't have equal legs in the building. We also know our power factor right now minimally loaded. The day there were kids in the building the day we were there. The power factor is 0.87. What that means is you're basically 87% efficient with the energy that's coming into the building's only, it can be improved by 13%, and you can actually be more efficient with the energy that's there. It's just not being efficient. We put power heat clean systems in other buildings as power factor components that go next to electrical panels throughout the building. As those come on, we saw Rolling Hills go from, I don't know, it was 75% efficient, and as each one of those modules was powered up, we ended up at 99% efficient.
It's incredible.
They really are. We have one at Welch, and we had a power outage. They sacrificed themselves. There was a major hit to the building. It sacrificed itself, and everything beyond that was saved because it sacrificed itself. It's a 10-year warranty. They came in and replaced the unit, no questions asked, and it was done for 10 years. So for the remaining time, that unit will be warranted. So for about $12,000, we can put a couple units in this building. And the biggest reason I want to put it there is if a leg, we have a loss on one of those 3 legs, this will protect the motors downstream.
Those are powered out. Just cut all.
It'll just cut it, and we won't lose motors. So the payback is 5 years based on the power factor of 87, but the payback is far less when you consider the motors and things you're going to save from those items. I wanted to try to explain it the best I could. I'm not an electrician.
You do know that we use electrical to in this country, not the UK.
I knew you would see that out.
We've had marvelous success with these everywhere else. I don't, it's a kind of a no-brainer.
I think the real questions that we write to you right now, Doug, is what buildings don't have enough?
Well, most of the buildings that don't have them, we've run numbers on to see what the payback was just for the power factor itself, and there wasn't any reasonable payback. We put them at the
How about when we add in the factor of motors and breakup?
As I'm seeing that happening now, I'll come back and revisit the project.
You can also check the phase in these buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you're doing,
Yes.
your guys are.
When we're done, we'll have equal phases. We'll have 3.
Right, but you pick a building that doesn't have it, you can currently check the phase.
Yes.
And So you can see them, if they're noisy, they're always noisy, basically.
The transformers are screaming, it's usually an issue.
Yeah, you can hear them.
Yeah. So, as you said, we see issues elsewhere. We put these in the two high schools, and by doing that over 10 years, we save $750,000. So there's big savings long term by using these, especially when you do it separately. Here's a land use of, this is all stuff that's essentially on the board agenda coming up. We have a bunch of service, maintenance, supply, professional agreements that were due this month. So I'm not going to read all of these, only that I'm showing them tonight so they can be on the consent agenda.
These are not, you're not spending the money, these are just fixed pricing for.
That's correct. A lot of these are allowances for things, some are based on unit pricing, if we need it, we purchase it for supplies. So I'm not saying we're spending $72,000, but if we need electrical supplies, we can go to one of these vendors and based on unit pricing, purchase through them at competitively priced products.
We bid it out.
So we
This
bid
is
it
a
out.
big change from years ago, because years ago, the electricians used to take petty cash, go to Ace Hardware, and pay retail.
Yeah, this, but, Bob Reinhardt's worked hard to fix that. This has a lot to do with it, so.
That's fine, I just wanted to point that out.
So, you'll get in the board packet all of the bid tallies, all of the summaries, all of the information. If you want to sit down and like, if you can't sleep, read all this stuff, have at it. But I just want to, at least show you that we bid these maintenance HVAC supplies, plumbing supplies. This was this one-time televisions and accessories for the two middle school projects that we need the display panels for. Integrated pest management, sprinklers, chillers, fully proficient maintenance, domestic water sampling, carpentry supplies, fuel oil, unleaded gas, propane, wood floor refinishing, which we do every year. About every 5 or 6 years, we actually sand the floor down. Every other year, we just screen the surface and recoat the gym. Boiler burner maintenance, water testing and treatment, elevator and lift maintenance, fire extinguishers, fire alarms, desert air, preventative maintenance for pool, biological waste services, all valves, recycling, environmental services, electronic waste. We talked last meeting about me wanting to maintain a couple of these from people that we had, Element Environmental, because they've been here, they're working on projects right now with environmental issues. I think it makes sense to keep them. They've been fantastic. I did check with Rob Cox because Jerry, you were concerned. Can we do that? Yes, he agreed. This professional service could be brought back. They matched their prices from 3 years ago. The only increase is the stuff that they use for radon testing, because every 3 years I go through the district and do radon testing just so we can say we did it, make sure there's no issues. If there are, we'll fix them. Generally don't see much. Electronic waste, e-waste experts, basically they're $0. They do this for free. Any of the tubes are 25 cents a pound for us. When they run their district events like they will this Saturday, $25 for a big TV, whatever TV you bring, Bluetooth. Anything else is free. So computers, anything, any other electronics, there's no charge. But they have to pay now to get rid of those tubes. They're out of, they don't have a choice.
And Carl called me today, and I think he called you too. They're very excited. They come a couple times a year and open it up to the public.
Yeah, we do Earth Day.
And the note to the public, if you're listening today, get there early.
And it's Saturday, and it's at North this time.
But last time it was at South, I was at North, I was at South, it was lined up on the couch.
Wastewater management, again, private utility enterprises who manages Wrightstown Elementary School since I think 2011. The other is bid 1861. This is the work for North's flood issues that we had when a mechanical fitting failed. We had about 14 classrooms with water in them. We documented the scope. We had a pre-bid meeting yesterday, and bids are due next week. And I want to get them, I'm getting them Wednesday for the Thursday board meeting. This will be an actual board motion item. Everything else will be consent, since you didn't see any numbers on this. What I'm aware in action on the flood, it happened May 7th. We discovered the flood in classrooms and office spaces. It happened sometime Sunday evening. This brings us back, Jerry, to what we're doing in the 2 middle schools. We're now putting flow meters, sensors in. So on a weekend, if there's a large flow, 500 gallons of water flows on a weekend, not from obviously visitors using bathrooms or something. That's a large rush of water.
Somebody asked about flow meters.
Somebody asked about that. Would you?
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're installing with new construction as we go.
So we have them on the new construction and they're tied into our building management system. So if there's an issue, we'll get a notice on our phone or wherever our building management system that there's a flow issue with water. And we'll do it, send somebody over and at least get it before it runs for a day.
Which is what happened here.
Which is what happened here. We were there Saturday, we were there. I think people were even there Sunday morning, but there was no Sunday night. It happened. So anyway, it's about 110 degree water from the strainer valve. Unit ventilator, of course, had to be on the 3rd floor, so all the water that poured out filled the room and then found its way through holes in the floor where conduits live and everything else. To the next floor and even all the way down to the 1st floor.
What were we responsible for? Was it for 50,000?
25.
Everything after that goes to the choice.
I believe that's the case, but I don't know if there's some limit to that. If there's a top end, I have no idea. But Reinhardt. So I'm preparing a complete report with all the costs. We'll submit it likely next week once I get the bids back and then that calls. So we did remove drywall areas up to 18 inches above the floor. We removed carpet, casework, ceiling tile, furniture and teaching materials, fans and dehumidifiers were put in place. Our environmental consultant came in with a moisture meter and probed areas that were suspect. If we found anything more, we cut that out and took care of it. He did pool tests on the carpet to make sure there wasn't anything in the carpets. He did indoor air quality readings and then came back and did readings again. There were no environmental issues discovered, nothing that was of any serious concern. We were very fortunate. We did that quickly to get everything out. So even though that happened the night before, once the building was shut down and you came back a week later, then you got to work. But if it's within a day or two, you get this stuff. And you get the dehumidifiers into the fans and you begin the drying process. And then we use sanitizers and things like that. So we had a pre-bid June 5th, bids are due the 19th. I'll bring it to the board on the 21st of June, and we have them completing work the 30th of August. There could be some casework that isn't done simply because it can take 12 weeks just to get that from a manufacturer.
Someone's gonna build it for us, they're custom business.
Unless they go to an AWI, American, the woodworking, architectural woodworking certified, no work guide will allow that on this project because it's just some kitchenettes. But still to the institutional level. Tough to say, but this is the little strainer that gave us a hard time. There's a plug in the end of it. Water flows through this. The plug actually, the threads corroded and blew this plug out, and water just flowed out of this unit. It knocked the casework down. Everything was saturated. The floor had an inch or so of water on it. This is down in the lower level. That's a sofa in a room on the 1st floor from how much water that actually got down through that floor. So there was a lot of moisture that found its way through. Ultimately, we're good. The end of my agenda here, these are the consent agenda items, everything we talked about, the change orders, cafeteria tables, the Planning Part G for Rice-Town, Planning A and D for Rolling Hills, Chancellor Center exterior renovations. I wasn't sure if this would be on or not, but we agreed to put this on. The windows, Rolling Hills, we just talked about the, well, it's not Rolling Hills. It's Holland Hill. Renovation, all of the service contracts we just showed. Upcoming items, we do not have a meeting in July. In August, we'll come back, we'll do our facilities updates, we'll do our capital project updates, we'll have a lot of photos to show you all the work that's happening and take some good photos for you. And last but not least, as we talked about, e-waste recycling event, Earth Day, June 9th, Saturday, 9 to 1. at the north, it's not the south, and we're using the Green Lane entrance.
I'm in the Green Lane entrance. Carl's got a pretty nice, efficient view.
That is it.
Let me look at my agenda.
I have a question.
I was just gonna say, board comments.
The question was, the fields of Wrightstown, while Wrightstown was under construction, what's the status of public access to this?
I talked to Pauline about that. Most of those fields are shut down while I was there because they're very close to construction activity.
I was assuming because Kyle, and there were no threats, so there.
Yeah, whenever we do any project, whether it's summer projects, whether it's major capital facility improvement projects, I talk to Pauline, she talks to the outside users, whether it's the township, whoever it is, and they're aware that there's limitations.
That's all. Do we use that building for vote? Right, when it's closed? Not when it's closed, but we have to notify the board. Is there a vote there? And do we notify the board?
I don't think so either, but I'm not sure. Let us look into that.
I don't know.
Yeah, look into that because obviously there's not going to be voting.
Yeah,
Right.
it's closed.
Right.
Sorry. I think it was before. I don't know. So just.
Good thought. Ed?
Yeah, I've talked to some of you individually about my thoughts and picked your brains about school security, and I talked with Dr. Fraser, and I'm interested in starting a conversation about what we're doing holistically across the district. And I know there's a lot of good things going on. Doug updated us on the ALICE program, which I think is an excellent program. I know that we've had a security consultant working in the district. I know, and I'll let Dr. Fraser talk about conversations with local police. I know that's going on. And I think all these are valuable. As I've said to some of you, my thinking on school shootings has changed. After the shooting at Santa Fe High School in Texas, and then just a few days later, the shooting at that Indiana high school or whatever level school it was, it turned out actually miraculously not be a huge tragedy. I really am feeling differently about school shootings, that there's a copycat element, that it's no longer a rare isolated incident. And I think we have to be proactive and really look at all the options, even things that don't seem cost effective and make sense. Like, you know, a year ago, if you would have said to me, I think we ought to look at putting metal detectors in schools, I would have said, that's a terrible idea. Now I think we ought to look at it, even though I think metal detectors are probably not cost effective and not practical and probably not effective. I think we ought to look at everything. There's a lot of activity going on at the state level. The state senate yesterday, you probably saw it pass that. They're calling it the Safe to Safe program, which is a good program to allow for anonymous tips to be collected at the state level. I don't know how effective it's going to be, but it sounds like a worthwhile initiative, and the state's holding all those hearings around Pennsylvania. That to the point where they finally get to recommendations and some sort of funding, I think might be a ways down the road. I'm even less confident that we're going to see something immediately out of the federal initiative. So I'd like us to start the conversation about enhanced security within our school district. I'd like the community to know that there's a lot going on, some of which won't be discussed publicly. And thirdly, as I said, I really feel like we need to think more broadly about what our security is going to look like. And I think we owe it to the public to allow them to provide input. And, you know, we've talked about the fact that people have pointed out to me that, you know, well, first of all, obviously we don't have time to do it in this school year with everything that's going on. Doing it in the summertime means that it's a lost opportunity for a lot of community input. So we're looking at the fall for some sort of, perhaps a special meeting of some sort on school security. And Dr. Fraser and I have discussed that, and you have some thoughts.
I do, yeah. I think holding a forum in the fall makes a lot of sense for everyone involved, ourselves, parents, students, and the community as a whole. And one of the things that the process will afford us is this summer, as you had referenced or alluded to this, we've already started talking with our different police departments about working with us this summer to review anything and everything that we're doing from a school safety and security standpoint. So what are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? Where any weaknesses exist? What are potential solutions or action plans around that? So that's a process that we will go through probably in the month of August. Certainly it will be before the start of the new school year. So I think that when we have this forum, I don't know that it's just all of us there, but I think it's our law enforcement partners there with us as well, is what I would imagine.
But as a discussion, because I think it's an appropriate discussion. I want to have the supervisors of the communities that we serve at that forum. For a very simple reason. Our budget is constrained by Act 1. And meaning that we've done a lot in this district to keep the education of children going forward, despite a number of mistakes made at the state level with regard to pension funding. And we've done that. If we want to increase security, for us to do that has potential to take away from what happens in the classroom. The townships that provide police protection to us are not restricted by Act 1. The second thing I want to point out is that every child in our school district is a member of our community that lives and pays taxes in this community. So when you look at, take South, for example, take Holland Elementary, take the new middle school, take any of the buildings. Every kid in those schools, in that school, comes from Northampton Township, pays taxes in Northampton Township. It does not become solely the responsibility of Council Rock School District when a resident of Northampton is in those buildings. So I have no reason to not go forward to our supervisors and ask for an increased relationship without an increased charge to the school district, because those are the citizens. Those are the kids of this community in that building. If you assemble 300 people anywhere for anything, you probably have the police pay attention to where it is and be there a little more present. We don't do that with schools. So I have no problem saying to our communities, these are your citizens, and asking our community members to put the same pressure on them to say, these are your children. The townships can increase taxes as they need to help protect the children of this school. It is not just Council Rock's responsibility. We pay half the salary of 2 officers. We pay half the salary for a Newtown officer, half the salary for a Northampton officer. That's great. That's 2 buildings get that protection. We have the adopt cop thing and everything else for the kids. Cops pay attention to the schools. I think they could pay. I'm not faulting the officers. I'm not faulting the chief of police and the administration of the police force. They work within the budget that they have. If it's important to us and it's important to the parents of 11,300 kids, then maybe it should be important to the township supervisor. So you have a forum, have them there too.
I think that's a great suggestion. And I appreciate the support that I've gotten. I've heard from individual board members that I've talked to for doing this kind of exploration. And I think we have really good, I think Doug and his team have a really strong security program now. But I'm afraid, unfortunately, that it needs to be strengthened to some degree. And, you know, the board's supportive, but I'm venture to say the board is supportive of exploring the options.
I would say, one of the things that we've always wrestled with, and I presume this week, the problem and is where the public discussion, that the public has every right to comment and everybody wants to hear the public's comments and concerns, but being careful that none of us and the members of the community do not come and point out any real or perceived vulnerabilities. And I don't know how that is managed while still giving the public an opportunity to speak.
Those meetings don't have to be televised. There's no, we have, are no, public meetings of this board have no state mandate to be televised. So at a minimum, they cannot, they could be held as a attendance required meeting. You want to be there, you have to attend. For the purposes, and I say that not for the purposes of excluding the public.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I understand and I think it's great. And I think perhaps over the summer, if we could even consider, not, you don't have enough on your plate, but just putting something out that, just what you just said, I think would put the mind of some members of the community who have expressed concern that this is an active process that you're working on over the summer. I think would make people feel a little more comfortable, frankly, to Ed's point, before the next event occurs. But I'm not quite certain how you balance all of those. It's a dance, it really is.
And we've gotten some.
I just wanted to add, you guys may or may not be aware of this. Last year, the IU started S3 Council, the IU, which is composed of all the school districts, all the municipalities in Bucks County police departments, county and federal authorities. And we meet once a month and we discuss safety throughout schools and county. And Casey Kohler's been heading that effort up at the IU, and he's done a phenomenal job. And it's been a very valuable resource to us as well. So we're not thinking about this in isolation. We also have that resource that we rely on quite heavily.
Which I think is also great for the public. Beautiful.
I haven't forgotten about you.
Thanks. So I think school safety is a very big discussion, and town hall meeting sounds like a great thing. People have a right to get up and express their ideas, and you know, you can't get around the fact that you may discuss something that someone's going to get an idea. They can get on the internet and get all kinds of ideas too. I think something that doesn't get talked about enough, I think, is actually looking at the minds of people and the people who do this and why they do it. And most important of school safety is getting into the minds of the people who could possibly be vulnerable to do something like that, and the initiatives to identify and work with people. So it's gonna encompass bullying. You know, bullying is a lot. You got to get a profile of all the school shooters, and they're not all going to be the same, but there may be some similarities, and use that information to come up with things that we can do to help people not want to do something like that. Because you can put metal detectors in the school, but that's not going to protect the people before they get to the metal detector, or at the bus stop, or at home, or in a grocery store, or in a ball field, or anywhere.
Well, we're a school district, we don't protect them all.
I understand, but still, before you get to the door of the school.
Could I just clarify?
I think that's what I was going to say, though. I was going to say that I think that we have to hit the minds of the people using social, maybe getting with the, talking with counseling, identifying people, coming up with programs that we can do to, if you see someone's getting really bullied a lot, you're talking about the program Speak Up. If you see something, I think the teachers should be able to speak up when they see and identify kids, hey, this kid's really getting it. Because there's only so much that you can do as a teacher, as an administrator, and a lot of things go on in the schoolyard or wherever. And there's, you know, I see it, we live it, we all live it. And I think that's something that we can, if we want to save school, we've got to have kids that are healthy minds.
I just want to clarify one thing. When I'm talking about, and I agree with you, most certainly, but when I'm talking about people coming to a microphone, I'm not talking about them giving kids ideas necessarily. My concern is if somebody comes to a microphone and says, there is a door that I know at a high school is being propped, so parents can drop stuff off for kids or whatever the purpose is. That becomes a danger just in terms of now somebody believes that that's an easy access in. So I'm not talking about, pardon me?
We'd like to know. We would not like you to announce it to the world.
Yes, if those are real things that are happening and those are real concerns, we absolutely want to know. But I don't want it on TV.
Yeah.
But if you hear it, you're gonna fix it.
Yes.
Yeah, and we have gotten some specific suggestions by email from members of the community about physical security issues, and they are being attended to. You guys, I know you have discussed one issue in particular that somebody raised in an email. So if anybody has a concern, they can always send an email.
And this will be the problem we will always face with this, which is to have, there, in business, we often talk about the triangle of fast, good, and cheap. It's a triangle. You can have any two of the axes, but you can't have all three. You can't have it really cheap and great quality and get it fast. So you live within that triangle. That's the parameters. I can't be so glib as to come up with what the parameters are here, but there's safe, quickly thinking, there's safe, there's cheap, and there's welcome. By welcoming, I mean you don't want children to think they're living in a harm camp. I can get you safe because I can lock every door every time, and everybody comes in, and nobody uses the building but one, and every kid comes in the uniform, but do you want that? So these are the perimeters of what we're working in. We have to find a space somewhere in this triangle which is appropriate. That's the challenge. We can turn the buildings into armed camps.
Well, it's a balance. I worked at an urban university campus, and there's only so much you can do to secure an educational facility. But I think we ought to look and consider all those factors. You're right, and the psychosocial factors too.
Well, we had in 99, 2000, we had the school safety task force. Now it came up with recommendations. Some of them took a while to implement. That's where a lot of the entry panels and entry forms came from. I don't know, you want to do that, or you want more immediate, but let's have a broader conversation with all of it.
I will state that my thinking on this is, I assume these people want to do harm, don't care about harm to themselves, and are willing to plan. So anything you throw at me that you want to do to make a school safe, I weigh against those.
Yeah.
If I can immediately circumvent it, then what have we done? I mean, and so that's how I look at it. So right now, the only thing I heard proposed was Joe's idea of minds, hearts and minds, and watching out. Most of these people, if you read about it, came as no surprise to anyone that they did this.
It could have been prevented, yeah.
So, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, and we speak of it glibly, not glibly, but the one of these incidents was thwarted by a fast-acting school resource officer, and the other one was thwarted by an energetic coach with a basketball who was shocked. I don't know, belittling that at all. And what I think it really speaks to is what I have high hopes around Alice is that people learn to react. And to react, whether it's to go away quickly or to advance quickly, whatever's appropriate for the situation, that they learn the right things to do. That's what starts with that. But when do you want to have meetings? So you don't want to have July.
It has to be October.
I think in the fall, yeah, probably first half of October, late September, potentially.
Any other board comment on this or other things? All right, public comment.
Thank you very much. It's hard for me when you go through items that I can't comment till the end. But I have a real specific interest in Achieve. I have a niece who's in the Achieve program and graduating out on June 20th because she turned 21 this year. And she's had a fabulous experience. But from her, I've learned, not a holistic, but a lot about the program. And I wish we would have talked more about location needs for the program because there are people saying we have to be near the buses, we have to be near the supermarkets, we have to be near potential work. Well, my niece has worked at many different programs, and she's been taken by Council Rock vans. She didn't use public transportation. She's been, St. Mary's Rehab, currently she's at Newtown Elementary School, working at Chartwells. There's one boy in her program who takes a bus. He walks out to Lincoln Avenue and goes to Langhorne.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry to say this. Can we not speak about one specific student that's not your charge?
Right.
So I want to be careful about invading the space of a specific student and describing characteristics of that.
I think we should need to talk about location. Okay? And second of all, I don't understand, we have a lot of empty, we should have a lot of empty space at North, because at one time we had 2,300 students. On the first day that South opened, there was 2,300 students at North, and now we have 1,600, even with the tech program in there. Why we can't separate out a space like we did the tech program and put in Achieve or Sloan. I don't understand why we can't use space that we already have besides a building that needs like millions of dollars, which is Richboro Mill. So I'd like to see something on that. Second of all, from the media today, there were two things I heard. One was in Wisconsin, they were building a high school. They invited everybody for input, parents, students. They all wanted plenty of daylight. They wanted open spaces. And they realized that all the things they wanted were contrary to safety because there weren't any shelter-in-place places for the school. So they took that design, threw it out the window, and now they have places where doors will shut down and do other things. I think we can maybe learn something from that school district. And the second thing is, mostly all these shooters, they have gone to the school or they're students in the school, and they know what the routine is. They have a lot of information to work with when they do the plans. So that's one thing that you have to think about. And Derek, I do like your idea of trying to get the municipalities to pay more towards the resource officers that we had. Well, we started that with a grant, and then they paid full for a while, and then it was half. So I do believe that it is the responsibility of the entire community and not just the school district to get more safety in the schools. So.
I just want to make one point of clarification. When the alternative school started, it was a discussion point about whether they should be in the school or not in the school. And it was decided that not speaking of Achieve, the alternative education program specifically, that for many reasons, certainly primarily for the benefit of the children in the program, it should not be in a school or particularly in a high school. So that's fine. You have spoken slow as well. Great, thank you.
All right, meeting adjourned.